You're watching the Dakota Drive on KFYR Plus with sports director Luke Gamble. Sponsored by Trusted Tire and Auto.
Welcome into the Dakota Drive, Monday afternoon, November 24th, and today I'm joined by Ben Dackiw. We're gonna two-man this thing today, or at least the beginning of it, to talk a little bit about the FCS playoffs, and then Ben is our resident hockey expert, so we're gonna talk about Bemidji State and UND hockey, which has a big series this weekend. But let's first start out talking about college football, because obviously this is like the focal point that everyone wants to talk about right now. The selection show yesterday happening, and I think we have to start by talking about UND, because the question coming in was, are they going to be, in the playoff picture? And then I think they were maybe a little bit more solidly in the playoff picture than what people expected once the selection show was announced yesterday.
Well, I think the committee just showed that they value strength of schedule. UND they did lose 5 games this year, but you look at who they're playing, they lose to an FBS team by 1, they lose to Montana by 1. I think their 5 losses, they lost by a combined 17 points. So 7-5 is 7-5, but it's not like they were getting blown out. They were in every single game they played, and I just want to say, take a bow, Eric Schmidt. This is a team that was getting pushed around. They just kind of snowballed after losing to NDSU last year, and we were at that game when they got pummeled in Fargo. Yeah. They were just totally outgunned, and when I went to see them in Grand Forks this year against NDSU, I think they were the better team that day. So I'm very curious to see how far this team can get and if they can earn another matchup with the Bison down the line.
Yeah, obviously, first things first. Can you get a matchup with Tarleton State first? But UND is going to have to go on the road, which obviously is not going to be easy for anybody. They'll have to play against Tennessee Tech on the road. But as you mentioned, I think strength of schedule is probably like 1A that the committee probably looked at here. But looking back at even that Kansas State game at the beginning of the season, I think that was an eye opener from the jump for people to see okay, UND's not going to, be here to get pushed around and that kind of thing. Just, talking about the FCS playoff picture as a whole, UND getting an opportunity to play in the playoffs is huge, obviously. And I think the other part of that strength of schedule is it shows just how good they think the Missouri Valley Football Conference is. That, even though UND's lost, 3 of their last 4, that they still put them in. But I'm going to throw up the bracket quick here while we're talking. So this is the FCS bracket, and UND is going to be kind of right here in the middle, taking on Tennessee Tech, and then the winner of that will take on Tarleton State. So obviously UND is going to have to play on the road too, which we know their road woes have been heavily analyzed for a long time. They've gotten rid of those a little bit this year and shown that they can play on the road, but playing on the road is not going to be easy, especially in the playoffs.
Kind of piggybacking off what you just said, the Missouri Valley Conference, I feel like that's the conference in FCS football. SDSU, they lost 4 of their last 5 heading into the playoffs. Some injuries there, so I'm sure maybe the committee took a look at that as well, but getting the 14 seed and getting a home game down in Brookings, that's big for the Jackrabbits.
Yeah, South Dakota State taking on New Hampshire right here below North Dakota. That's going to be a heck of a ball game if they get through and have to play Montana on the road. That's probably the game in the second round that you would circle. Obviously going to be interesting to see what the situation is with Chase Mason and the Jacks as they get into the second round. But UND going to play at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Tennessee Tech 11-1 on the year. Tarleton State also 11-1 on the year. So it looks very different from a record standpoint for UND compared to these other teams. But I also don't think that just because UND's the road team that it should necessarily be looked at like, oh, they're going to go, they're going to go on the road and they're going to get beat and that's going to be the end of their, season. I feel like UND is in a position that they're going to be really competitive in both of these games if they're able to get through the first round. Even if they get to the Tarleton State, I feel like they'd be competitive against them too.
And Tarleton State is interesting to me because, this is a program that made the jump from D2 not too long ago, and I feel like just with the trajectory of where this school is going. I feel like they think they could be a D1 FBS program at some point down the line, and just having, I mean, they're in the A&M system, like they're in that kind of affiliation with Texas A&M. So it's just really interesting to kind of see how that all goes. I have a couple of friends from high school that went to Tarleton State, Luke. So go Texans, I guess.
Everyone thinks they can be FBS, though, right? At this point, everyone wants to be FBS.
I mean, if Delaware can do it, I'm sure Tarleton can do it.
Tarleton had some, I saw this morning that they put out the FCS attendance numbers for this year, and Tarleton had some pretty good attendance numbers across the season. I think NDSU's was at like 16,000 on average, which of course, that's probably tickets distributed as opposed to butts and seats. But, obviously NDSU did not have the greatest home slate. So I think saying, even that number is probably pretty good for what they had. But let's talk about the Bison a little bit. Obviously we knew high likelihood they were going to get the 1 seed. And they've had a pretty good history with the 1 seed, looking to replicate that and get to Nashville this year, which is going to be different than going to Frisco.
It's just, I mean, I ran this SOT from Jackson Dutenheffer last night, and he just said, yeah, we shut the door. It was, and he's right. They didn't leave any doubt. They've been the best team in the country all year. They've been blowing teams out for most of the year. UND managed to keep it close. But even look at the teams that they could face in their second round matchup. If Illinois State wins, which I think Illinois State, I think they win that game.
Good shot, yeah.
The Bison beat them by multiple scores earlier this season. So I just think it's, unless you're a Montana or a Montana State or a UND, I guess, I just don't know how many teams could stand up to the Bison in a playoff setting. On a neutral field, anything can happen, but if you're running into the Bison before the national championship, I don't think anyone's beating them in Fargo.
Yeah, and speaking of the attendance numbers, it'll be interesting to see what attendance numbers are like, especially for, technically second round game on December 6th against, if it's against an Illinois State team that they've already beaten this season, I could see where you don't necessarily sell a ton of tickets to that game just because people think they know what's going to happen already. Against Southeastern Louisiana, how many people in North Dakota are really interested in seeing Southeastern Louisiana play? I don't know. But as you get deeper into it, if you get a chance to see a Tarleton State or a Lehigh in the semifinals, I think that's going to make things really interesting. But NDSU, I mean, you mentioned it. They've kind of rolled through things so far this season, and I think they've obviously proven to be, good reasoning to be the number 1 seed. Just looking at the bracket, I mean, Montana State and Montana are obviously, in my mind, they're obviously the next 2 best teams. Yeah. And I feel like if you're NDSU, you got to feel pretty comfortable with the side of the bracket you're on because you don't get either one of those teams on the same side of the bracket as you.
I mean, at the same time, I think if you are NDSU, I think you'd definitely rather play a Montana or a Montana State in Fargo as opposed to in Nashville. But being able to avoid both those teams until, I mean, I don't think that's how Tim Polasek thinks about it by any means. But I mean, I think I'd rather get Montana or Montana State in my own barn as opposed to this. I mean, playing on Vanderbilt's campus, it's definitely an interesting kind of thing there with the new kind of new stadium, all the new bells and whistles they put in.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. And obviously first time in Nashville as opposed to Frisco while they're doing renovations at the Frisco Stadium. And I think the interesting thing long-term to watch is going to be after they've done this here 1 or 2 years, is it ever going to go back to Frisco? Because I think there's a lot of appeal, obviously, for Nashville. Not to say that there isn't for Frisco, but I think there's a lot of an appeal to Nashville. And if they prove that there's really good attendance numbers there and, it's attractive enough for people to travel to Nashville, who knows if it goes back to Frisco.
I think it just, at the end of the day, all this is about money. Right. I think if they think they can make more money in Nashville than they can in Frisco, I think the game will probably stay in Nashville for a while.
Or do we see it go into some kind of rotation where you do Frisco, you do Nashville, maybe there's a couple of other...
Maybe the Rose Bowl. It's open. It's going to be open.
Maybe a couple other... I was thinking warm weather cities. Yeah, I was thinking warm weather cities in the southern part of the U.S. That it would rotate towards, but Yeah, I mean, with NDSU, the other thing that is funny to look at is just the fact that obviously UND is on their side of the bracket. It's, I would say, a long shot that they play UND again, but we mentioned Montana and Montana State, but you avoid South Dakota State and South Dakota, so it's funny that North Dakota State and UND are the only two Dakota schools on that top half of the bracket, because obviously in FCS everyone talks about the Dakota and Montana schools, and for UND and NDSU to be the only ones up top, I think that makes life a little easier for the Bison too.
I mean, I feel like that's just been the theme of the year. Life has been very easy if you've been playing out of Fargo this year. And, I mean, Cole Payton, man. We weren't sure what to expect out of him his first year with the Reins, and I feel like every hurdle he's had, quite literally in a few cases, he's done everything they've asked him to do. I think he had a bit of a turnover problem down the stretch, but I think the Bison are really comfortable with him at the helm going into playoff season.
Yeah, what was it, 4 interceptions in 4 games or something like that, but I don't think that's something you're super concerned about if you're NDSU at this situation. But
I mean, when your quarterback only throws the ball 15 times a game, if things are going well, I don't think you're going to be too concerned if he throws a pick, as long as they can figure out the fumble problem that the offense seems to have picked up lately. I don't think that's going to be an issue for them.
Yeah, and I mean, he's had high percentages, throughout the season too, in terms of just what his completion rate and things like that are. So makes life easy when you're throwing to a guy like Bryce Lance too. But then the question is, once we get to January 5th, the weekend of January 5th, and we get ready to hand out the Walter Payton Award, is Cole Payton going to be, I think at this point, it's probably safe to say he'll be a finalist, but, is he going to be the guy that ends up taking home the award this year, or are there guys with better numbers that, because they throw the ball a lot more and that kind of thing, are going to end up having a better chance at it?
I think Cole Payton might have a better day on when the NFL draft comes around, but I don't think he's going to be. I don't even know if he's going to be finalist. I just don't think the numbers are there for him.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Youngstown State's quarterback is got a pretty good argument. I know that they've been pushing for that. Youngstown State's going to play against Yale in the first round, and then they'll have to go on the road to play Montana State, assuming they win in the first round. So they'll have their hands full there. But yeah, the FCS playoff picture is going to be fun to watch. All builds up to January 5th and a trip to Nashville on the line, and it should be exciting to see how that unfolds. But we wanted to talk for a few minutes just about hockey. UND's obviously gotten off to a great start. Having a new head coach is never easy. Obviously, it's somebody they're super familiar with at the same time. And this week they play a non-conference against Bemidji State, which is weird because it has so many Bismarck ties to it.
Bemidji State Beavers, 4 guys that have connections to the Bismarck area, soon to be more. Charlie Vig going to be heading up there soon, but for now, they've got his older brother, Max Vig, and then Kirklan Irey, Bismarck native, wearing the C for the Beavers this year, and then Luke Roloffs, former Bobcat, and then Jake McLean, another former Bobcat. So it's kind of funny that the Minnesota school has more Bismarck connections than the North Dakota school.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you look at UND, not a lot of former Bobcats there by any means, but Ian Engel went up there, and I'm not sure how much action he's been getting down the line or how much we're going to see of him on the ice this year, but that was very cool to see when he signed with UND.
Yeah, it was funny. I was at the game on Friday night, and I saw someone with a Luke Roloffs jersey, and I was like, wow. Obviously, that's a name that has stuck with people around here, but it is cool. And in just a few minutes, I had a chance this morning to catch up with Kirklan Irey to talk about being a captain on this team and kind of what that's meant to him. And I think that's cool, right? Like, it's not like we're just talking about these guys being on the roster at a place like Bemidji State. I mean, they're contributing at a high level and in a big way in terms of, being a captain and getting really good minutes on the ice and that kind of thing. And he was very open about the fact that, like, well, number one, he grew up, a UND fan, which I'm pretty sure, the Vigs probably did too. It's pretty safe to assume. Obviously, there's a long history there with the Vigs, so it's safe to assume that they grew up UND fans as well. And so I asked him just, do you look at this game any different? And he said, yeah, that it's obvious going into a weekend like this that guys from North Dakota are going to have a little bit more motivation on their shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the pictures of Mitch Vig in the old Fighting Sioux jerseys. So like the Sioux, the Fighting Hawks. That's always going to be, that's North Dakota. So that's going to be. You see this a lot in the NHL because a bunch of the Canadian boys, they grow up as Maple Leaf fans. They get drafted by an American team, maybe a Western Canadian team, and they always just seem to put up numbers against the Leafs. So maybe the Beavers will have some similar luck the next couple of games against UND.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch.
You look at the Beavers, 4 of their 5 losses that have come in regulation this year have come against NCHC teams. They lost twice to St. Cloud State and they lost twice to Duluth. So they're looking pretty good in their conference over in the CCHA.
Yeah. It should be interesting to see how the conference race shapes up for them. And you got to feel like playing an out-of-conference matchup against a team like North Dakota has to help you in the long run, especially when you're talking about this matchup happening at the end of November. It gives you kind of a good picture of where your team's at as you go deeper into the season and get into more conference play.
I think going to play the number 6 team in the country first in your barn and then in their barn, I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Kirklan also said that his best memory from this rivalry was beating them at Bemidji last year, beating UND at Bemidji last year. So it's pretty cool that he's been playing long enough now at this level that he has, stories that he can look back on and, share with guys like Max. He mentioned it in our conversation that we're gonna share here in just a second, but those guys still train together a lot here. I mean, over the summer and stuff like that, they spend a lot of time together. So it's cool to see how deep that connection goes.
Are we seeing the early beginnings of the Bismarck to Bemidji pipeline? One point I wanted to make. I mean, you saw this in both UND hockey and in football. We keep hearing how hard it is for new coaches to come into programs because of the transfer portal, because of NIL, because when coaches leave, that can just mean open season for roster. And it just feels like we didn't really get that this time around with either program because Coach Jackson comes in and takes over the Fighting Hawks, and they're looking better than they were at this point last year. And you look at UND, I thought they were going to win 5, maybe 6 games. I was wrong. And now they're back.
Clip that.
Now they're back in the playoffs, and they could have a chance to make some noise. So I just think it's really impressive how 2 coaches come into Grand Forks, and there's just no lull. There's no any of that. Both teams missed their respective tournaments last year, and both of them could end up making their respective tournaments this year. Just very impressive work by those 2 coaches.
Yeah. Or is it easier because of the transfer portal and the fact that you can turn around your roster? I think a lot of people would probably argue that. But another thing is UND is turning around a lot in terms of coaching. I mean, you look at football, hockey, soccer, women's basketball. Women's basketball has gotten off to a little bit of a slower start. Their volleyball coach just got let go in the last week. Less than a week, I think. So there's been a lot of turnover there that they've been, flipping to the next page. And so far, obviously, it's worked out for hockey and football. We'll see if things pick up for women's basketball. And then we'll see how things turn around, a year from now for volleyball. But I think you can make an argument that it does make it easier in the transfer portal era because of the fact that you can go and grab players that you want right away.
I think it just depends on whether or not you can get the players that you want. And I think this worked in UND hockey's favor because I think they did lose a couple of commitments here and there, but being able to bring in a coach that the program was familiar with and that was already on the staff. I think when a program can do that and it's a guy the players like, that I feel like that makes it more likely for the guys to stick around, for the guys to want to stay, to not get poached, so just stuff like that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And obviously UND off to a good start. We talked about it, but Bemidji off to a good start as well. It's going to be a fun weekend matchup. Even if it's a split series or, Bemidji goes in there and gets one, I think that would be huge for them, especially at this point in the season, like we mentioned. But had a chance to catch up with the captain for Bemidji State, Kirklan Irey, earlier this morning. I dropped the ball, had some technical issues, so it's an audio-only interview. Our Zoom interview did not work. That's on me. But he had some pretty cool things to say about his history as a UND fan and just what this kind of, I don't want to call it rivalry, but what this matchup means to not only him, but these other guys that have Bismarck connections as they go on into the weekend. So here's that interview with Kirklan Irey. Yeah, so obviously it's a big game for you guys this week, and obviously there's so much extra that goes into it, right, with being a North Dakota kid and that kind of thing. But for you, I mean, what is your perspective on this game? Like, you've gotten to play in it a few times now, so what is this week like for you as an individual?
Yeah, it's always a fun weekend because obviously you get a lot of family and friends that come to the game in Grand Forks, and you know, I've always wanted to ramp my game up when we're playing UND, just obviously being from North Dakota, like you said. But yeah, there's definitely another aspect of playing them. Did you grow up like a UND fan, watching UND hockey, that kind of thing? Yeah, I did. Yeah, growing up, always was a fan, but now totally on the Beaver train, so off of that. Yeah. Well, I mean, for you to be in a position that you're in now as a captain and that kind of thing, I mean, how much different has that been for you, I guess, taking on more responsibility and stepping into having that C on your chest? Yeah, no, there is added responsibility, but you can't change who you are and change the way you play or anything like that. So, I mean, I think overall, like, we've done a good job as a group so far. It's been fairly easy so far, so I mean, it's been good. Yeah, obviously, I mean, getting off to a good start this season, I know that's always important, right? You want to start on the right foot, but as you go into this series against UND, I mean, I guess let's start with, what are you most proud about what you guys have been able to do so far? I mean, what have you liked that you guys have been able to do early in the season? Well, the one thing I've liked early in the season here is guys contributing all over the lineup. We can get guys playing in certain roles and one night, and it's changing the next night. So it's good to have guys step up in certain positions and play the way we have been. And I think just playing to our standard is what we've been saying here. Like, don't play to our opponent, don't play to who we're playing, but play to a standard and just keep growing all season long. Yeah. For you personally, I mean, going into this year, what's kind of been your mindset? What have you been trying to focus on as an individual to, you know, take your game to the next level? I think just my overall game. Like, I had a decent season last year, and I know coming into this year, I wanted to just kind of play out my overall game, like I said. So defensively, I wanted to tighten up that play and really lead by example going into this year. Yeah. Obviously, it's unique with how many guys now you have on your team that have connections to Bismarck in some way. What's that been like, having Max come in and then obviously having a couple of guys that played for the Bobcats? What's that aspect like for you guys? Yeah, it's been great. There's a few guys that have Bismarck ties, and it's nice knowing that. But then again, like, going into this weekend, there's gonna be a lot of family, a lot of friends. Some billets I've heard are coming, so it'll be pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, for you guys, you don't really get a Thanksgiving break, right? Like, you don't get to go home because you're in the middle of playing hockey. So how cool is it that this lines up with Thanksgiving and gives you a chance to see some of those people you haven't seen in a long time? Yeah, no, we do our own little Thanksgiving here as a team with all the guys, but it is pretty cool. Like, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to not be too far from home, so being able to see family quite often is nice. Yeah. I just wanted to ask you about Max and what he's been like so far this year. I mean, obviously early on for him, but what have you seen from him that's kind of stood out? Well, Max is a terrific player, a terrific person. He's just grown every weekend. It's not an easy adjustment to come into college hockey. You're playing against men, and I think he's stepped up into that position really well. Yeah. For you guys, did you have any kind of relationship, like, dating back before the Bemidji days? Yeah, we do. I train with them all summer, and we work together. I work coaching hockey camps with Lambert Hockey. But no, we've always kind of had a relationship, and we push each other in the off season. But it's good.
So what's that like now to have him in Bemidji with you then?
Oh, it's great. It's nice having someone familiar face being around, and it's cool now to see his brother committed, and they'll have that moving forward. But no, it's always good to have someone with a familiar face.
Yeah. How do you, obviously for Max, like this will be the first time going into this kind of weekend, right? And for him, there's even an added perspective of the UND side. So how do you guys, I guess, mentally prepare for that, knowing that it is a little bit different and maybe there's, a little bit extra on your shoulders as you go into a weekend like this against UND?
Yeah, no, there is something added to it, right? Like coming back to your home state, playing against them, but you got to treat it like any other game. So that's the one advice I'd probably give him.
Yeah. Let's talk about UND a little bit. I mean, obviously they've been off to a great start as well. I know by now you've gotten a chance to watch them and stuff. So when you turn on the film, I mean, what really pops about what they've been able to do? Or is there something different that they're doing this year that maybe pops more than it has in the past?
No, they're a really good team. I'm sure you've seen it yourself, but they play a fast, physical game, and that's going to be a good test for us. They're deep up and down their lineup, and I can't say anything better about them. They're a good team. Yeah.
In terms of what they've done this year, I mean, obviously having a new head coach, have you seen anything that you feel like has been different approach-wise for them?
Not that I've seen. We still got to study some tape this week, but not that I've seen so far.
Yeah. Going into this weekend's, and obviously you said like having an added measure. I mean, at the same point, regardless of what jersey they're wearing, it's an important game in the standings too, right? So, but at the same time, we're early in the season. So how do you guys as hockey players kind of balance that, knowing there's so many games that go into the season, but every point down the stretch is so important?
Yeah, no, we look at our whole season as a playoff. So we think every game matters, and that's our approach going into this weekend. We're going to treat it no different than the last couple weekends. So even though it's a non-conference, it's big in the national rankings. So we know we have to bring our best.
Yeah, absolutely. Just as you continue to go throughout the season from your personal standpoint, I mean, what's on the whiteboard of goals for you that you've kind of personally written down that you want to accomplish this season?
No, I have lots of goals, but I think winning our league is a big one. I want to make the national tournament with our team, and I think we have a good chance of doing that, and we've put ourselves in a good position to do that at the start of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we end all these interviews with a couple of rapid-fire questions. So this is kind of first questions that come to my mind and first answers that come to your mind, and we'll just do a few of them real quick. But number one, when you come back to Bismarck, where's like the place that you have to go eat?
Big Boy or Poncheros?
No Poncheros in Bemidji, huh?
No.
How many people do you expect to be at the game for you this weekend?
I would say 50 plus.
Okay. Do you already have a game plan? Like post game, we're going to dinner somewhere in Grand Forks, or you guys are trying to get together with family? Do you have a game plan for that?
Not in Grand Forks, unfortunately, but in Bemidji we will be.
Yeah. I know that you said that you guys do your own Thanksgiving. What's your number one Thanksgiving food?
I like pumpkin pie.
Nice. Nobody can argue with that. Last thing, I mean, for in terms of this series, what's your favorite memory for playing against UND?
I think beating them last year. We beat them in our home barn.
Yeah. Always fun to look back on a win, right?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining us and taking a few minutes, and best of luck this weekend. Obviously, we'll be watching pretty closely.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
That was Kirklan Irey with Bemidji State Hockey, the captain for the Beavers this year. Bismarck native, and cool to see him getting an opportunity there at the next level to be a captain for Bemidji State. And obviously, he said this week means a lot to him and a lot of guys on that team in terms of just playing against your, the team that you grew up rooting for, the team that plays in your home state, and all of those things. So a couple of guys, like we mentioned, that used to play for the Bismarck Bobcats, they're on that team. Max Vig, who is from Bismarck as well, that's on that team and has gotten some valuable minutes early this season as well. So that's going to be a fun series to watch this weekend. That'll be Friday and Saturday night, both in Grand Forks. As Bemidji takes on UND in a non-conference game that'll give us, I think, some fun storylines, at least, if nothing else. But we've got one more guest coming on here in just a little bit, hopefully in the next 10 minutes or so. Bill Triplett, Williston State's women's basketball head coach, excuse me, is going to join us. Williston State off to an 8-1 start. They've been fantastic early on this year. They've won their last 4 games, so they've been red hot and coming off a pair of wins over the weekend. So we're going to talk to Bill a little bit about just where his program's at and how they've gotten to where they're at. So excited to have him join us here coming up pretty soon. But just wanted to circle back to one thing with NDSU that we didn't talk about when Ben was in here. It came in this morning that Tim Polasek is a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Award, the National Coach of the Year Award for Division I FCS coaches. There's 15 finalists named, and he was one of 15 finalists, which I think is a testament to where this program's at and where Tim Polasek has it at. Obviously, it's not like he stepped into, a team or a program that was in shambles and, build it up for nothing. But in today's day and age, it's hard to, step into any situation where players can hop in the transfer portal and leave. And so he did a good job of retaining players and obviously leading this team and now getting them to the point that they're at now, once again, with another FCS playoff appearance and also the number 1 seed in the FCS playoffs. So hats off to Tim Polasek, obviously very deserving of being in that conversation for the Eddie Robinson Award. And it'll be announced early December who wins that award, December 4th, and then the winner will be recognized at the National Championship weekend at the FCS Award ceremony. So that's something to look to. NDSU obviously coming off a huge win over St. Thomas. Not really tons to say about that one because I think it was what we really expected it to be. And then UND coming off that 3-point loss at home to South Dakota State, which, didn't prevent them from getting into the playoffs. They have lost 3 of their last 4, but the door was still left open for the Hawks to get into the playoffs, and that's exactly what they did. So a chance to keep playing football, and that's really all you can ask for at this point of the season, I'm sure, is what the message kind of is right now. But a few other things I just wanted to touch on. Obviously, state volleyball tournament wrapped up this weekend in Bismarck. Was a fun tournament to cover and to see play out for the first time, having 3 classifications going at one time. Hats off to the state champions. The West teams were defeated in the semifinals, the last couple of West teams, so we didn't end up with a West team in the championship, unfortunately, but it was still a fun weekend of volleyball and cool to see the logistics behind how all 3 classes played out together there. So hats off to everyone that made that happen, because I know it's not easy to make it happen. But something else that happened over the weekend, Bismarck State College upsetting Rocky Mountain 93-88. Rocky Mountain was ranked number 17, and that was the first Frontier Conference game that Bismarck State's women had ever played. They were coming off, I think that was their 3rd game in 4 days. They had played Jamestown and Minot State, 2 Division II opponents earlier in the week, and then they turn around on a short week and beat number 17 Rocky Mountain, and then they hung in there against Carroll College and lost by 3 points on Saturday, so they were right there in the conversation with that one as well. But a huge win for Jason Harris and his squad. They're exactly what they were last year, a team that's going to shoot from behind the arc and try to light it up, and that's exactly what they did, and ultimately resulted in BSC getting a win on Friday night. They fall on Saturday night, so they're now 1-1 in conference play. Just 1-4 overall, but they've played some really tough competition out of the gate. This Friday, they'll play Dickinson State for the first time as Frontier Conference opponents. That'll be on Friday night in Dickinson, so that'll be their first chance to see them. And then I'm excited in a couple of weeks to see BSC play against North Dakota on the road in Grand Forks. I think that's kind of a cool thing, right? Take your team to Grand Forks, let them see that level of competition, and let them see where it's at. UND's women's team has gotten off to a slow start this year, so we'll see what it'll be interesting just to see what the competition level is like. But we mentioned the fact that we were going to talk to Williston State head coach Bill Triplett, and we're going to get him on here in the next couple of minutes or so. I think he may have joined our meeting already, so we might get him on here sooner than later. Just getting things set up here on my end. Williston State women's basketball off to a phenomenal start, 8-1 on the season, and they're definitely rolling right now with what they've got. They're coming off 2 wins over the weekend. They've won 4 in a row now, and they're 8-1 on the season. So it's been a good start for Williston State's women's program, and I think the coolest thing is one of their top players is from right here in Bismarck, which we always enjoy seeing things like that. Jersey Berg has been phenomenal to start the year, shooting 50% on the year through 9 games. She's shooting 82% from the free throw line. I didn't write down her stats from the 3-point line because I don't think she's taken hasn't taken a ton of threes so far this year. But Williston State has gotten off to a fantastic start early in this season. We're going to have head coach Bill Triplett join us here in just a matter of minutes. We're going to let him get set up, but we were talking about BSC women's basketball. Obviously, BSC getting off to a good start. There's one other thing I wanted to touch on, and now I am blanking on what it was before we got to Williston State. BSC women winning over the weekend. Gosh. Going back to look at my notes. I didn't make as many notes today. I think there's a couple of things I want to touch on in terms of other college basketball to watch outside. Obviously, we have a ton of phenomenal college basketball players in our area that have gone on to play at the next level. And yesterday, I was watching a little bit of West Virginia play in one of the invitational tournaments. They were playing in the 3rd place game, and Trayson Eaglestaff was fun to watch. Lauren Ware has been phenomenal early on this season for Texas A&M. Their women's team plays here in the next hour and a half or so. They're in Hawaii, so not a bad gig for former Century Patriot Lauren Ware. A&M and the Aggies off to an incredible start so far this year. Nebraska has gotten off to a good start as well. Logan Nisley has been dealing with a little bit of an injury, so she's kind of easing back into the lineup. But it's just cool to see some of our guys and gals at the next level and in different places and various places that have are getting a chance early on in the season to make an impact. And obviously those are all veteran players, the ones that we just talked about, but it's cool to see all of them making an impact on the national stage really so far early in this season. So while we're waiting on Bill to get set up here, I just wanted to mention the couple of I just saw the girls hockey poll came out, so I went back and I was trying to find the boys hockey poll because, believe it or not, hockey started this past weekend. And one thing, Friday night, Bismarck and Legacy played against each other at Wachter Arena, and that was the most packed I've ever seen Wachter Arena. And it was a shootout of a game, 7-4, I think. Legacy ended up going on to win. You can see those highlights on our website now, but it was a shootout of a game between Legacy and Bismarck, and more importantly, I think it was just cool to see that the crowd was so fantastic for that game. And obviously first game of the year, but they were playing in Wachter Arena because of the fact that the Bobcats were at home on Friday night. But I thought it made for a pretty cool environment, the fact that there were so many people packed in there. But the WDA boys preseason hockey poll had Minot United number 1. They got 6 of the 10 first place votes. Minot United going to be that Minot High and Minot North team that they're keeping together for now, and instead of making a Minot North team. Century came second in the WDA polls, Legacy in third. Century got 2 first place votes, Legacy got 2 first place votes, and then Mandan's 4th and Jamestown is 5th. Legacy, like we said, started off their season with a win on Friday night over Bismarck High. That was after BHS took the lead 1-0 early in that game, and then Legacy turned things around pretty quickly. Excuse me. And then in the girls hockey poll, obviously there's no WDA poll because of the fact that we're trying to get Bill sorted out here at the same time as we're going through this. But there's no. It's just a statewide poll for girls hockey, and so it's really competitive, though, which I think is the coolest thing to see, is the fact that it's kind of a toss-up about who the number 1 team in the state is going to be. And right now, it's Fargo North-South that has the most votes. They've got 6 votes as the first place team in the state, and then Legacy Bismarck High has 5 votes as the first place team. So it's neck and neck, and obviously Legacy Bismarck came off that state championship run last year where they were the 5 seed and ended up going on to win the state title, which I think surprised a lot of people. And, they impressed a lot of people in the meantime of being able to do that. And Century was in the mix as well. Obviously, 2 years ago, they made that kind of improbable run to the state championship game. And then to now be, back in that situation where they're receiving votes in the polls, and then Grand Forks, then Mandan rounds out the top 5. So to see 3 out of the 5 top teams in girls hockey from the West, I think is a pretty cool deal, and says a lot about where women's hockey is at right now in terms of the western side of the state, girls hockey and the WDA, and how much stronger it's gotten. Even after the teams have split from the Bismarck Blizzard, to have multiple teams, I think is pretty cool to see that. So we're gonna get Bill on here in just a second. We've got him unmuted. We're just working on the video aspect here. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We'll take a quick break, and we'll circle back and get Bill on here, and we'll talk a little Williston State basketball in just a minute.
He should be fine. You think he might be away from his computer? Because it looks like the audio's picking up from the mic.
See if I've got an email from him.
Okay.
Maybe if I try it from my phone.
Maybe. This one on mute.
Hello?
Leave it from here.
Hello?
All right, we're back here. We're getting ready to talk Williston State women's basketball here in just a second. Bill Triplett joining us now. Bill, how are we doing? Good to see you. Sorry, we were trying to get things arranged here on the Zoom side of things, but how are things going? Obviously, an exciting time of the year and an exciting start to the season for you guys.
Yeah, it's been good other than some bad injury news and stuff like that, but the season's going really well. The team has come a long way, and we've had a pretty tough schedule lately and done okay, so it's been exciting.
Done okay. I think that's pretty safe to say. Off to an 8-1 start. I mean, you're coming off a road trip to Wyoming. You said you guys had a long road trip this weekend. What have you taken away from these girls early on that has gotten you to this point?
Well, one thing is they're really resilient and gritty. We got down double digits in both those games, and we were in foul trouble in both those games, and wow, they listened. We made quite a few adjustments and came back to get the W in both of them. So they're very coachable. But the one thing that's constant with these guys is they work their tail off every possession. It's really a competitive group, and they're fun to coach. And I think when you play teams like that are like national ranked and you get a win, it just gives confidence to the whole group, going forward. So that's been good for us.
Obviously, you guys have such a long stretch before you play anybody in your conference. So, how important are these games early in the season where you're playing so many non-conference opponents? What are you kind of looking for from a coaching perspective in these games?
Well, we started the season out with against three teams that are in our conference. We have this opening weekend tournament in Newtown at the casino there, and it's really a good tournament. And so you play three games against conference opponents to start with, but then you don't see them or the other teams in your conference till after Christmas. So we kind of look at the schedule as a whole. It's kind of like me and a student. I tell them those first 30 games are all chapter tests, and we're always preparing for game 31, the finals, and just to get a little bit better every game and to learn from your mistakes at every game and try and get better each and every day. So the product that we put on the floor right now is hopefully going to be improved quite a bit by the time that game 31 rolls around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask you about Jersey Berg, who's obviously from Bismarck and has had a huge impact on your team. I mean, just how big of a piece has she been over the past couple of years that she's been there? How big of a piece has she been to this program and specifically to this team this year?
She's very important. She plays a position where, she can go inside and out. We play her at the 4, and the 4s really have trouble guarding her at the high post and on the perimeter. And then and she's a good shooter. She's shooting about 50% probably. Had a great weekend. I think she had 30 points on Saturday and stuff. But then there's some games where she'll get you 10 because we got other girls that are getting 20 and 25 or whatever. Our team is very balanced. I think we have 6 girls averaging in double figures. So you just can't key on Jersey and you can't key on Jordan or Heffernan, or it's just a well balanced machine. And even sustaining injury, like one of our top players, Kylie Simpson, had a knee injury on Friday, and it doesn't look good. She's actually going to come to Bismarck on Wednesday and get everything checked out. But even not having her on the game after that, we just stepped up because we're pretty deep at the guard spot. So adversity and injuries and fouls. We had a 6'2" post breaker ankle the day before school started in open gym, and now we lose Simpson and stuff. But the team is deep enough to just keep right on rolling. So best wishes to Kylie, and hope things come out negatively on hopefully there's no tear and stuff, but we're not very, very optimistic about that. But the team itself, Jersey is a part of it, a big part of it, but she's not the only part. We've got 4 girls receiving lots of offers from the 4-year schools right now, so that they're pretty good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. How is I don't know, from a perspective of having 4-year schools that are constantly looking over your shoulder and looking at what talent is on your roster, has the dynamic changed at all in the past couple of years with more of the NIL talk and just the way things have changed in the major landscape? Has it changed the picture at all for you guys, do you feel like?
Yes, it has. In fact, one of our players from last year, she was coming out of Williston, was offered NIL money and actually turned it down, went to the school of her choice. But we have 11 Tetons playing up right now that have played here the last 4 years. Because of the COVID year, that was not used as a year. But we've got 11 Williston State kids playing. We've got just around this area, Moritson's at Valley City and Kirkowski's at Jamestown, and his bad horses at Northern, and we've got Allison Coonsey at MSU Billings, and we got 2 playing D2 ball in Texas. Allie Garcia had 21 this weekend for St. Mary's in Texas. We got Taylor Moffitt starting at Portland State at a Division I. So the Tetons, just the last 2-3 years, these 4-year coaches have realized that better go recruit those Tetons because there's some really good talent there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for you, I mean, knowing that you only get someone like Jersey Berg for 2 years, I mean, how important is it to have that development happen quickly in that 2-year time frame, not only for your team, but for them as well as they look to what's next?
Yeah, it's important. When you're a player like Jersey and when you're recruiting them, you kind of have the feeling that they're going to step in right away. She was ready coming out of Bismarck High. I remember in that state championship game or the semis, I can't remember which one. I think she had 21 at halftime. And just a great player. So we knew she would be ready, as was Danny Jordan, the current freshman coming out of Lockwood High School in Billings. She was ready right away and has given us big things right now. So when we recruit kids, you always want to recruit 4 or 5 of those that are ready right away. But at the JUCO level, you really want to have about half sophomores and half freshmen. So you don't have to go through a year where you lose everybody and then have to reload that cupboard. And right now we've got 6 really nice freshmen, but we do have to replace Simpson and Berg and Bolito and Murtaugh and stuff, which is going to be huge. But it's been that way every year, So at the 2-year level, it's a little different. At the 4-year level, when I coached at Minot State, we tried to have 4 seniors, 4 juniors, 4 sophomores, and 4 freshmen and stuff, and that's a lot easier, to get that kid that's ready right away and get them in there. And then other players you have to develop, So, but this team is very balanced as far as what class you're in, freshman versus sophomore, and it's balanced on the floor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just talking about the recruiting aspect of it, I mean, I don't think it's new by any means for Williston State to have players that are from overseas, Australia or England or what have you. You guys have 5 players that are from outside of the U.S. I mean, what is that pitch, that conversation of, hey, come give Williston State a chance?
Well, those kids know that they're probably going to get looked at and be able to bounce to a bigger school when they're done here. And my scholarship program is, I've got 5 tuition waivers. And for me to sign a kid out of Minneapolis or Texas that's out of our region, it's going to cost quite a bit more to get an international student, but not if you have a waiver. That waiver is good for no matter how much tuition it is. So there's a lot of good players in North Dakota, but they choose UND and they choose Mary and they choose Nebraska and they choose wherever. So for me to keep the program as strong as I want it, we get some of those kids like Kylie Simpson's from Botno and Jersey Berg's from Bismarck and that. But to add to that, I like looking at the kids that have all that experience and are knocking on the door to be a D2 or a D1 player. And to get that kid, it's hard for me to get them out of Minnesota or North Dakota or Montana and stuff. So we try to supplement that roster with an international.
Yeah, absolutely. Just last thing for you, obviously moving forward, talking about the loss of a couple of players, but still being in a strong position. What are you looking for from this team between now and January 8th or whatever it is, whenever you play your first conference game?
Well, we got a game tomorrow night, and it's Dickinson JV's at home here. But after that, we take a long trip all the way to Coeur d'Alene just so we can play Central Arizona and North Idaho, and they're both loaded. So, like a trip as was this weekend, we're trying to play some really, really strong teams. And if we can go out there and get a W, great. If we go out there and learn some lessons and don't, that's all part of it, is getting better. My dad coached at Lansford High School for many, many years, and he tried to schedule the best possibly teams he could during the season because it makes you better at the end, and that's what we're going to do. So between now and Christmas, we just want to get better every day and play some really tough teams like we did this weekend and go from there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Bill. I appreciate it, cutting into some practice time so you could join us. Have a safe road trip this weekend.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Bill Triplett, the head coach of Williston State women's basketball. The Tetons off to a phenomenal start here early in the season. 8-1, they've won 4 straight, and they're coming off two in a row in Wyoming over the course of the weekend. And Jersey Berg from Bismarck High has been a big part of that, which is one reason that I wanted to talk to Bill, because I know how much she's meant to that program here early in the season and over the last 2 years. But it's been a fun show this afternoon. Obviously, we're now kind of turning the page, getting into the winter sports season, so it's going to be exciting to get some new coaches in here, new faces on here to talk basketball, hockey, whatever it is over the course of the next 3 months, 4 months as we get into the winter sports season. But we appreciate you joining us for another Monday here on the Dakota Drive. We'll see you back here again next Monday from 2 to 3 p.m. Central. Have a good day and have a good rest of your week.